Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time on Doctor Who Classic, we had the Highlanders. What was that about?
Well, I'll be honest with you. About 2 days ago, as I was getting ready to do this today, I thought, what did we watch last week? And then it finally came back to me that we watched the Highlanders. They basically landed at the Battle of Culloden in the mid to late 1700s. This is when they were trying to get Bonnie Prince Charlie back on the throne. And quite honestly, I don't remember a whole lot of the plot other than Polly and one of the Scottish girls made a complete mockery out of the gentleman. What was his name? Pfeiffer or
Finch.
Finch.
Yeah.
Double F Finch. Yeah, that was
Right.
pretty funny. And by the end of it, the Doctor had managed to get the small group of Highlanders to a safe place anyway, and then Jamie the Piper decided that he would go with them, and the last thing we saw is Jamie walking into the TARDIS. So now we have a kid from the 18th century about to board a time machine.
Yeah, and, we've been pretty good about keeping our companions relatively, modern to futuristic. I mean, honestly, Ben and Polly, I think, are the first ones since Ian and Barbara that have been, they're from the 60s. Yeah. Everyone else has been further in the future. The only other person to be back in time was Katerina, and she did not last long.
No.
She did not at all. So we're hoping that Jamie lasts a bit longer.
Well, we know he lasts until at least season 5, don't we?
Yeah, and he might last longer than that. I'm not quite sure, but we at least got him till the beginning of... Well, no, into season 5, because we saw in the midway of season 5 he was still there when we watched The Web of Fear, so...
I mean, he seems like a good character. I'm not exactly sure what he adds, because we've got Ben for the muscle, as we are fond of saying, and Polly is the new incarnation of Barbara in that she's very, very smart, very clever, seems to have picked up the whole idea of time travel and how you fit in when you go to the past and that sort of stuff. Ben is still very much got that military mind. We've got to do it this way, and so we'll just see how the three of them kind of mix in together. Yeah,
it will definitely be interesting, because we haven't had, 3 companions in a while. Pretty much since Ian and Barbara left, we haven't had... It's been 2, especially with getting Steven, and then having Vicky, and then Dodo, and then all of them. Yeah. And now having Ben and Polly, so adding a third one, that will be kind of interesting. Today, I believe this episode is called The Underwater Menace.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, but I do know that Part 1 and Part 4 are recon, but Part 2 and Part 3 are all good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we will finally, after all this time, finally see Troughton's actual performance on screen.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we have seen him before when we did our tour of Classic Who and then New Who. Yeah, we did see him. So, I mean, it's not that we didn't like him, it's just that what we saw in the first 2 serials left us somewhat astonished that anybody would have kept watching it.
Yeah, so, and we can keep twisting the knife on the power of the Daleks all we want. We know that we have sunk that knife deep into the hearts of people that love that episode. Although people have suggested that once we're finished with the Troughton era, we actually go back and watch the updated animated version of Power of the Daleks, and maybe we'll like it a bit better. Yeah. So we'll have to see. But yeah, this one... So we at least have 2 episodes here that are going to be the actual episodes. I don't... Okay, yeah, so we also have that going for next episode as well. But then the next ones we're kind of back to some animated episodes as well, so
do we have any complete serials with Troughton in the 4th season?
Complete 100% episodes? No. No. The answer is no. The next complete episode is Tomb of the Cybermen.
Which we've already seen.
Yeah. So, and I'm still figuring out what we're going to do for the rewatch of that. So, I don't know. But anyway. But yes, today we are on this episode, which is at least partially there. So,
all right.
We'll enjoy it. And with that being said, we might as well get right into this episode of Doctor Who. Here we go.
I still don't get the hat. I mean, I don't even know what kind of hat that is.
Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous.
Jeffrey Orm?
That's a new guy.
The Doctor settles himself down amongst the rocks and closes his eyes.
You know what? I think this one just likes to take naps.
Polly ventures into the darkness of the cave. Oh, that's always a good idea.
Nah.
Just inside the cave, she is confronted by robed figures.
Well, it's time for Jamie to get used to kidnappings.
Well, when you're finished, get us out of this contraption.
I can't. They've tied me up.
Who are they?
I don't know. I didn't see them.
The door opens again, but this time the Doctor is thrown in.
That's all we needed.
Well, he made great time up that cliff.
Oh, you speak for him. Don't talk to him. Ask him who we are.
Did Ben say you speak foreign?
How did we process?
Oh, because they're off the coast of Africa, they thought. The group has marched along a winding corridor.
That text was a little janky looking.
I was wondering if that was just my eyes.
You have 5 minutes in which to make your point. After that, you will join your companions. The ceremony will proceed.
Looks a little like a very young Jonathan Pryce.
What will happen to them?
Good old stock footage.
This, of course, is 10 years before the Jaws movie.
Nah. Yeah, I bet they're gonna try to sacrifice the Doctor to the shark, and he's gonna have to jump over the shark in order to avoid it.
Oh no! Please no! Jumping the shark. Vital secret will die with me, Dr. W.
Now this vital secret, what is it? I must know.
I haven't got one.
How dare you? But you have sense of humor. I too have sense of humor. I need men like you.
This is a weird situation.
70% of the world's surface is under the ocean. You are looking at our food-producing area. Without it, we couldn't survive.
What kind of stock footage was that?
Ancient temples under the sea. But that's not possible. That's only a legend.
Go on, Doctor.
It's
The ancient kingdom
Atlantis.
of Atlantis. Yes.
One tiny jab, and you'll know no more about it until it's all over.
so many fish jokes come to mind.
Yeah.
Now, I guess we're just going to have to take a drink because obviously this guy is a German doctor. It's 20 years since he was last seen. We're in the late 60s or early 70s.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, they said it's like, well, it's sometime after 1968.
Yes,
specifically.
The Mexico Olympics were in 68.
Right. So, okay, a lot of things just kind of happened in that episode where it's like, we're here, we're being captured, we're underwater, we're being sacrificed, we're not being sacrificed, this Zaroff guy is here, he likes the Doctor for some reason.
So they've obviously met before.
I guess?
Well,
I mean, it's like, you know, he said it's like, well, I have a vital secret, Dr. W. It's like, okay, so does he recognize that it's Doctor Who, you know, the Doctor, or does he just think like, oh, this guy's got a vital secret, clearly I need to hear this guy out, you know, on the off chance that he's right, but the Doctor was bluffing.
Yeah, I definitely got the impression that the Doctor knew him from before.
Yeah. Because
he knew about the food, that Zaroff was making stuff out of plankton.
Okay, so... Okay, it's an odd start, and this is just Atlantis. I was like, all right, great, cool. It's just very odd.
Yes,
basically.
Now, historically speaking, the first possible location of Atlantis was, in fact, in the Mediterranean, not in the Atlantic Ocean. It was much later put out in the Atlantic Ocean, pretty much when they figured out it couldn't have been in the Mediterranean. But there are all sorts of stories about the island of Theros and the volcano Santorini that blew up that could have been the basis for this. The volcano did not look like an old world volcano. Right? That looked like something that was very, very new. The old world volcanoes, of course, being old world, they were much older volcanoes. Mount Etna, I think in Italy, is the one that's still active. Vesuvius would have been, 2,000 years before. But other than that, right up until that last shot of the fish man, it's an interesting premise. I'm not exactly sure where they're going with it.
Yeah, it's
escaped Nazi doctor finds Atlantis and plans to, didn't he say, raise it above the water?
Well, that's what he told them. So I kind of got the feeling that he told them that so that they would let him work here, basically. Because, like the doctor said, well, doesn't your science and experiments, doesn't that sort of conflict with, the ancient rituals and sacrifices and stuff? And so he said, yeah, I gave them, a sugar-coated pill. It's like, I'll get Atlantis out if you let me do my thing. So I would imagine that we would lead up to Zaroff being discovered by the Atlanteans. So, yeah, it's, I don't know. I don't know why I never thought Doctor Who wouldn't go to Atlantis at some point. It's I just never thought that. It's of all the shows that could do that, this is probably that show. It might even do it better than Yu-Gi-Oh did it in its 4th season. So
we will not discuss the Y word.
You're ridiculous. You're completely ridiculous.
I'm not ridiculous.
You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous about Yu-Gi-Oh! And you're ridiculous about Clone Wars, and I will hold to that. So
you're saying that I am correct about Dragon Ball? 2 minutes of dialogue and 28 minutes of screaming.
Well, okay, you're not wrong. It's just better than you describe it.
The episodes I watched, I mean, seriously, again, Yu-Gi-Oh! Seriously, do not get Yu-Gi-Oh! At all. Especially when they started playing it on motorcycles. Is that what I remember?
That's the 3rd show. And yes, there's a lot of people that say it's that's a little... That's pretty crazy when they start playing card games on motorcycles. But that's the 3rd show. The 1st show is all about Egypt and Atlantis at some point.
Yeah, mentioning Egyptian gods that never existed.
Yeah, well, you have Obelisk, you have Slifer, who's, to be fair, his Japanese in the Japanese version, his name is Osiris, and then the winged dragon of Ra. So, we're on a tangent, but that's
yes.
all right.
Forget the tangent. Yeah, let's just agree to disagree.
I suppose maybe we should react to Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, hell no!
That would take 10 years to get through. Anyway. We ought to move on to part 2.
All right, let's see. Oh, and this one is an actual episode.
Yes, it is.
Ooh. So this is now the 12th episode into the Troughton era, and it's the first one we're going to see live.
Yes, it is.
If I'm to operate on the girl, I must have light.
One operation, one girl. You are making an unnecessary fuss.
I know what's going on. You're using so much voltage on the project that all civil use is curtailed.
Ridiculous. I will show you. You follow me. Open the panel.
I feel like it's less of a German accent and just a foreign accent. It's a little off.
Supply. There's never anything wrong. Look.
Well, the water will be converted into superheated steam. The pressure will grow and crack the crust of the Earth. Destroy all life. Maybe even blow the planet apart.
Yes. And I shall have redeemed my promise to lift Atlantis from the sea. Lift it to the sky.
It will be magnificent.
Yes.
Starting to see 1 or 2 holes in your plan.
Like so. Yes.
I think the butter has slipped off his noodles. He's going round the bend, he has.
Why? You, a scientist, ask me why.
The achievement, my dear doctor.
Because we can.
The destruction of the world. The scientist's dream of supreme power.
Yeah, I think they talk about this in Jurassic Park. I figured out if you can, but should you?
Yeah. Did your operation go well? The girl escaped.
Why does Damon have the dumbest
Very
eyebrows?
frustrating for you. But it's cheap and plentiful.
He's
We pick up the
obviously an
miners from
Atlantean, but I haven't
shipwrecks
seen
without
anybody else that
otherwise
looks that way.
Yeah.
convert them to fish people. Easy.
I think other than our crew, the Zaroff is the only human, I think.
Where can I find your chief of state?
In the council chamber, why?
I want to talk to him. Can you take me to him?
Yes, but he'll hand you over.
I'll have to take that risk.
Stay outside.
I feel like we missed some plot with this girl.
Prisoners.
I know a place where we shan't be interrupted.
Which way now?
So another dumb hat for him.
One is as good as the other.
It's an old Gloucester fisherman's hat.
But the steam can't get out, and so I think we better stand a little further back. Get down!
Quite the explosion.
Steam doesn't usually have a light spark like that.
Nah.
Put this on, could you?
Could I?
These ropes will not challenge you. What?
Never mind.
This hat will make a fine addition to his collection.
Have you noticed his eyes? They light up like this.
What does this mean?
The professor is as mad as a hatter.
Mad? Zaroff?
Completely. No answer. Sad.
Your own priests proclaimed him to be the prophet who would raise us above the sea.
Nolan, he is old and superstitious.
And your superior, Ramo.
I mean-
Remember that.
It will raise you above
you
the
will not
sea
listen
from
to
a
us.
certain
I
point
did
of
not
view.
say I have given much thought to your words, and I have come to a decision. There is your answer. Do with them what you will.
Shark bait.
He's gonna have to jump over that shark at some point. Okay, so new developments. It's not. I mean, technically, yes, it is lifting Atlantis above the water. Just further, 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 further. Oh, hey, the moon. Further. That sort of lifting it. I don't get Arma. Like she like instantly switched sides the moment they introduced her, and she's just.
Well, she did have that line there at the end where she said she hates Zaroff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we haven't really seen why, other than we assume the backstory is he treats everybody badly.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, especially because that started in episode 1 where it's just immediate. It's like, oh, doctor, here, let me help you. It's like, what? Who are you? Wait, you just showed up. Hold up.
In any other situation, we would expect she would become a companion.
Yeah.
But I don't suspect that's because 4 companions would seem to be overloading.
We would have to lose either Ben or Polly at that point. So, okay, so this is definitely just an interesting one. His convincing, his argumentative skills, I don't know if they've gotten better or worse since he regenerated. I don't know if the first Doctor would have made that argument any more convincing, but, I don't know, just the way he talks is definitely different, which I like. It's it's good, it's interesting, but it's I don't know how well he's making his case here.
Yeah.
So,
it strikes me that the premise here is interesting, but I'm not going to say it's jumbled up. It's just it's disjointed.
Yeah.
The story of the 4 guys, Jamie and Ben and the 2 other guys escaping, doesn't seem to make much sense. I mean, it may in the next 2 episodes, but we don't know where that's going. And the Doctor and Damon?
No.
No, who's the guy with the Carmen Miranda headdress? Anyway,
I don't
but
know.
the priest.
Yeah.
Again, did not make a very convincing argument. If the Doctor had done for the king what he had done for the other guy, blow up the pottery. That but he just went in and said, I can tell you this is what's going to happen, and the guy says, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
So again, it seems to me this is mostly a writer problem.
Yeah.
It looks like it could have been sharpened up. Again, this guy is. I don't think we've ever seen Jeffrey Orm before.
Yeah.
So maybe he wasn't completely familiar with the format because again, it's not awful. I mean, we've got these couple of different plots, which is always good, but they don't seem at this point to have any major connection.
Yeah.
And as an audience member, we don't see where they're going.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad, it's just a little funky, basically.
Yeah.
Like it kind of feels like, normally what the plot would be is focusing on just Atlantis. Like the fact that you have Zaroff in there is kind of strange. Like that honestly detracts from Atlantis and building this world and stuff like that, where it's like normally we would have, the civilization, we have the people, and whatever, someone gets kidnapped, the doctor has to, talk to people, all right, fine. But then someone from Atlantis would be sort of the, we always say the Tegana of the story, So he'd be that character, and it kind of feels like Zaroff is supposed to be that character. That's like, oh, this is the one that doesn't like the doctor and stuff. But having him be like this German, Russian,
Polish,
foreign,
Eastern European, yes.
Yeah, like this vaguely foreign, scientist with his own evil plot separate from the Atlanteans who are just kind of there. It's like, this is a very strange, mix of things.
And just a weird little footnote here. Dr. Zaroff, the name is so familiar to another science fiction story from the 40s and 50s, the Flash Gordon series, where the Eastern European scientist was Dr. Zarkov, Zarkoff. So, maybe Mr. Orm was influenced by that as a kid.
Yeah.
But again, this the pace is not bad. It's not the direction. It's not the actors. None of other than Zaroff himself, none of the actors is overdoing it too much.
Yeah.
It's just that this writing is just not what we have come to expect.
Yeah, and I guess that's the other thing too, is that we can't see where it's gonna go. Which, I mean, on the one hand, it's, they can surprise us, but on the other hand, it's like, well, what's the plan here? It's like, so did the doctor just get kidnapped again? But, Ben, Polly, and Jamie are all, doing their thing. It's like, I guess maybe they're gonna have to go save the doctor. I'm not sure. The doctor has not really been concerned about saving them, but of course, maybe at this point he thinks, they'll save themselves. They generally do. So, and I don't know, and somehow you just have to defeat Zaroff, which, I mean, I feel like that should be as simple as taking a sledgehammer to his machines. You do that, he can't do his thing anymore. Yeah. So, it's, I don't know, it's just a very strange one, I guess. So.
And there is no truth in this man's arguments.
The man is a fool. Have I not sworn to you that Atlantis shall rise again from the sea? Haven't I? What are you staring at?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
He sees the look in his eyes. Yeah, this does kind of look like Flash Gordon costumes. They're...
The Lone Ranger meets Aquaman. Reminds me of that scene in Monty Python. P.A. Jesu Domine, Dona Equis Requiem, smack each other in the head with a board.
We'll all have to die sometime, Doctor. If it is the will of Ando, it is inevitable.
Joke's on you, I can regenerate.
This is the voice of Ando. Hear me. He who looks on the living face of Ando shall die.
So they went with the Mulan 2 route.
May the wrath of Ando engulf you! I'll take my chance. Get out!
This guy's pissing off everyone today.
All his seafood goes bad in a few hours and has to be thrown away.
That's true.
And so,
I get it. We get the fish people to go on strike.
you are dreaming, man.
Now, hold on a minute. We could try right enough.
But what would that do for us?
What would it do for us? I don't know really, but it's a start.
Ugh.
Do you think you can do it?
This is such a weird one. So, they can't preserve their seafood.
No refrigeration, apparently.
All that Atlantean technology, you can't make a refrigerator.
All right, so they had enough budget to build a pool that people could swim in.
Yeah.
And this has got to be the strangest sequence since the Web Planet.
Nah. Are they actually underwater?
No.
Okay.
You would see the bubbles coming off them.
Yeah. But they've got the wire work to fake it.
Yeah. Well, this extended sequence doesn't seem to have any major plot point to it.
They're just showing off. They're like, look how much budget we have.
I'm guessing the idea here is that the fish people are passing the word to stop production.
Yeah.
Don't stop it!
You will come with me.
Well, he's dead.
And how did they not hear that?
You and I have other fish to fry. Come on.
Other fish to fry.
Nah. Might not be the best time for puns, Doc.
I can't go on anymore.
You will go on if I have to drag you. Wait. Did you hear anything?
These puns are giving me a haddock.
You've had a gun this whole time?
Those two men. Nothing in the world can stop me now.
Okay, we're getting into grade B melodrama here.
This is really... It's just going like balls out on this one. Whew.
Today's a country, tomorrow's a world.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that was some Gene Wilder level young Frankenstein mad scientist stuff there.
Yeah. I mean, he's even got like the hair and everything, so... Oh, boy.
Dr. Frankenstein.
This is such... The show has changed a little bit. And this is... And the strangest thing is, this is the exact opposite of the power of the Daleks. Like, where that one was like, okay, you know, it was a bit slower and a bit more mysterious and stuff like that. It's like, this one is just going. And it's going and going. Everyone is high energy, and it's just weird.
And the plot parts, the different storylines are starting to come together, but they still don't make a whole lot of sense.
It's a very janky story. So, and it's just a strange villain, too. 'Cause it's like, again, it feels like this guy almost takes away from just everything about, like, oh, Atlantis, and let's build this world and stuff, and how do we do that? It's like, no, that's just sort of there, and we're mainly dealing with Zaroff.
Yeah, I think, like you said before, if they had simply taken Zaroff and the dry world, or whatever you want to call it, out of this, and had one of the Atlanteans who was mistakenly in the belief that he could drain off the oceans to raise them back up, then the Doctor, could say, hey, we just got to stop this guy because he doesn't realize he's going to crack the world apart. But literally adding the B-movie mad scientist to it is just a step too far.
He is way over the top, and I don't know. It's because you almost expect, like, with Troughton, because he is funnier than the first Doctor, although the first Doctor had his moments, you'd almost want more serious villains to play off of him because he is stranger. But instead, now he looks like the sane person compared to Zaroff. So, I don't know. I mean, it's not bad. It's just very, very odd. So,
all right. So I guess we got the last episode in Recon.
Yes, we are on to part 4.
Well, it was nice to see, though, the live action.
Yeah.
Routine check. Control receiving.
So, this guy does not appear to be an Atlantean. Is he somebody from the dry world?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, cut electrical wires with metal shears.
Nah.
What could possibly go wrong?
Maybe they've got little plastic parts on it. I don't know.
It's a nuclear reactor.
Yeah, but plastic.
That reading must be wrong, you idiot. I'll check it myself.
You idiots. It's like Ren and Stimpy.
Nah.
What is it? It could be radiation.
Oh, what's that?
Radiation, well, it's too difficult to explain.
Explain radiation to a Highlander.
Yeah. Good animation.
Water starts to flood the temple.
Zaroff, I think you ought to know. The sea has broken through and is about to overwhelm us here.
Don't listen to him. The man lies.
Then perhaps the distant roaring that we can hear is just the goddess Amdo with the indigestion.
The technicians and guards flee.
Don't be alarmed. Don't be fools.
So all the other scientists didn't realize he was going to blow things up?
But it doesn't matter.
Zaroff takes a shot, but the doctor and Ben have already fled from the room. The water level continues to rise.
So they trapped him away from the controls, I guess.
I can't leave Zaroff to drown down there. I'm going back to the water. Look, we've got to get out of here quickly.
Any sign of the
Oh, that was probably censored. That's why we have that.
But we will have enough left to build a new Atlantis. Without gods. And without fish people.
Yes. That shall be his memorial.
Instead, we shall have atheism and cows.
No, I can't believe it. What? A flaming English police box.
Too bad we couldn't take the two of them.
Jacko and Sean.
Nah.
You not exactly make it go where you mean it to, if I wanted to. It's just I've never wanted to. Oh, yes, I bet. Right. Just for that, I'll show you. Now then, where's we go? I know. Let's go to Mars.
Well, the TARDIS is offended that you tried to actually control her.
It's all your fault, but I'm afraid the TARDIS is out of control!
Alrighty. That's episode 4.
It's like fish stew. It's just, let's throw in a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and maybe it won't smell bad, but it's going to stink for a while. I mean, seriously, really good ideas, except for the glaring mistake of putting in the, mad Eastern European scientist.
Yeah.
And again, it all comes down to the writing. The direction was fine. The sets were fine. The fish people didn't, look too completely weird because we didn't see them that often.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were a huge part of this. And again, it seemed like it could have been such a really good overall story if you'd simply take out the mad scientist and instead put in an Atlantean who thought, the same way that you can raise Atlantis by lowering the oceans, and then just simply, that is the will of Amdo or whatever, and then the Doctor still figures out to save it the same way. But the mad scientist, and it makes no sense whatsoever.
Because it's particularly, because you might say it's like, oh, well, if you just have an Atlantean who has the same plan, then what's the difference? But the difference is that Zaroff, he's just too mad. Like, and I guess, part of it, like, okay, yeah, maybe you could do a progression into, it's like, oh, by the end, he's really gone crazy. Or even if it was like, okay, maybe here's the problem. He already knew from the beginning, I'm going to destroy the planet.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's not a good thing.
No.
Like, I don't think even anyone who made the nukes, they were like, well, yeah, this can. Let's just hope we don't do that,
Yeah.
Like, this guy, right off the bat, mad. It's like, if it was like, oh, I have this plan that can, raise Atlantis. Like, he actually legitimately thought that, but the doctor was like, no, hold on. Like, he looks at the plans like, okay, I looked over what you're planning. If you do this, there's a higher possibility of destroying the Earth than actually getting Atlantis above the sea. Then that could work. There's opposition between him and the doctor, and all culminating, and it keeps, progressing until eventually he is going mad, and maybe he eventually is like, oh, well, I don't care either way if it happens. I just have to do this. Like, then maybe. But it's like, the fact that he starts off, no, I'm insane and I'm going to blow up the Earth. Yeah. Like, why? Because
power.
Science.
Yeah, he says something about, that's the ultimate scientific goal is, complete power. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
That is not. So, and just somebody should take Jeffrey Orm out and just, slap him upside the head.
It definitely feels like his first time writing for the show. And I guess because it's also... Okay, this does actually slightly remind me of Spider-Man 2, where it's like, okay, Doc Ock, he's got this whole plan, of creating this, incredible renewable energy source, and, once he, starts to lose it, and he loses the inhibitor chip, so the arms start controlling him, and it's like, okay, he thinks, oh, I have to keep doing this, it'd be a crime not to do what I'm doing, but he still doesn't think... he's forgetting about the whole thing of like, oh, well, I couldn't control it. He's just thinking, well, I will control it this time, and it will work. It's just that the methods that he uses are, criminal and insane, and that's what puts him in conflict with Spider-Man. But no, that would be if they go to Doc Ock, and immediately he's like, yes, my plan is going to destroy the world. Like, well, how did you get funding? How did Harry actually fund you then? It's like that's the strange thing. There's no progression or just like oh, well, what I'm doing could work, but the doctor's saying no, it probably won't work. Like, that could be a good conflict. It's just
and again too to me, part of the thing would be, since they do have modern technology tied to this ancient religion, that would be the motivating factor. It is the will of Amdo. I've got to try to bring Atlantis back to its former glory. And maybe at the end he realizes what's gone wrong, but can't stop it, and that it still ends the same way with him drowning.
Yeah.
But again, the story, it is a great story with literally a carbuncle grafted onto it in the character of Dr. Zaroff. I keep wanting to say Zarkov.
Yeah.
So, again, could have been an interesting episode, but, again, stinks like 3-day-old fish.
Yeah, ironically. So,
And I don't say that for the halibut.
I mean, we should just end the episode there. Clearly, we're not going to...
come on, there's so many more fish jokes that are... But go ahead with your notes.
Are there? Are there really? All right.
I'll shout out a few for you. Go on.
Okay, so let's see. We had the festival, which was just going to be the sacrifices of the Doctor and the companions. That kind of happened. So we did not get them throwing the Doctor in and him having to strategically jump over a shark in order to survive. I was hopeful.
Well, even Happy Days hadn't jumped the shark by this time. Happy Days was in the 70s, so...
Yeah. Of course, this took place possibly in the 70s, so yeah, I mean, that...
And again, was there a specific reason, other than the worked men? And where did they come from? Were they sailors who were kidnapped or shipwrecked? Did they ever say how they got there?
I don't know. Because I want to say it's like, okay, maybe they got shipwrecked and they stumbled on Atlantis, because they even said, I think Ben at one point says like, oh, well, how come nobody's discovered Atlantis sooner? And one of them says, oh, well, maybe they have, but they never, got away to tell the tale. Maybe they were stuck there. So
it seems to me if this was anywhere from 68 to 1970 or beyond, if a ship disappeared in the Mediterranean or the Atlantic, trust me, they would have been looking for it for years.
Yeah.
Right? So, again, this would have made more sense to set it in the late 1800s or the early 1900s when we didn't have the capabilities. But by the 1960s and the 1970s, we would have had literally a global search for a missing ship.
And I suppose it's possible maybe they came with Zaroff, but I don't know. They didn't establish that enough. Like, okay, I understand. I guess the other scientists and the technicians, like, I guess they were part of his team that somehow found it. But yeah, it's like, where did these other guys come from?
Yeah.
Were they kidnapped? Were they shipwrecked? I guess that's just a small little detail that, I don't know.
Here's something else. What were they mining? They were sent to the mines. Did they ever say what they were mining for? Is there uranium? Is that part of the nuclear reactor? Or are they? Seriously, there was nothing that they were specifically mining for that I could tell.
You know what? They could have easily said that, and I mean, these are kind of nitpicks, but they could have easily said, it's like, they're mining for something that will be able to preserve the fish. Like, that's it. It's like, they're basically mining for refrigerators. So, like, that could have worked because that would tie into the fish people that have to catch the fish.
Now, again, if I caught the reference early that this was, in fact, somewhere off of the coast of North Africa, then theoretically, if they were going to be mining for anything, they'd actually be drilling for oil, because you can make refrigerants. You can make, like, Freon out of crude oil byproducts. They're called petrochemicals. In fact, I just taught that this week, how in the Oklahoma oil fields, everybody, of course, wanted the crude oil to make gasoline and kerosene because of the advent of the automobile. But it was in the 1920s when they began to say, we got all this sludge left over after we've refined the gasoline and kerosene. What are we going to do with that? And they began making things like disinfectants. You can make rubbing alcohol and formaldehyde and things like Freon for refrigeration and adhesives and stuff like that. So any of that stuff could have been brought in. But again, it takes somebody who knows that. The average kid or the average adult watching that would have gone, what are they mining for? I mean, is it just because we need the caves, because they're underground? It's just one line. Seriously, we've said this for the last 4 seasons. One line in a script, just to say, hey, we're mining for molybdenum, mercury, oil, whatever, so that the audience, like us, and I realize we're 60 years on and watching all 4 episodes at the same time, but still, there needs to be some continuity.
It kind of seemed like, send them to the mines. Why? Because that's where you send people in stories. They go to the mines.
I send them off to the mines.
I do question what was distinct about Polly that she was going to become a fish.
I guess because she couldn't work in the mines. They didn't have any women, so turn her into a fish so that she could,
well, because
get some kelp.
They also said, it's like, oh, well, you two, you look strong. We'll put you in the mines. It's like, let's just be a little fair. They don't look much stronger than her. No. The two of them are pretty skinny. Like, we're gone are the days of Ian and Steven. Like, we don't really have, like, I don't want to say, like, just built men, but, like, they're a little on the short side. They're shorter than the Doctor.
They're scrappy.
Yeah, so
now I did like, and just before I forget, right there at the end when the Doctor said, we can't let Zarkov die. And Ben said, why not? And that does go back to the first Doctor, who ultimately was saying, if there's a reason why, like the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, that is something that happened. The French Revolution happened. We cannot interfere with that. But as far as the smugglers, I can save that town because that doesn't really matter in the course of history. But this, him saying, we've got to go back and save Zarkov. It's not, or Zaroff. It's not right for us to let him drown.
Yeah.
Again, that almost seemed out of place here because why not? I mean, you trapped him in there. You must have known that the water was going to rise.
Yeah, it was. That whole thing was kind of weird. It's like, so they trapped him away from the thing, but in a way to where it's like, I guess there were two things, and they trapped him in between, and then they hightailed it.
That was hard to tell in the recon.
Maybe that's the recons. So, it is good that the Doctor's like, oh, I should go help him. Yeah. Let's see. I mean, the next thing I wrote down was just Zaroff, and he mentions like, oh, you also have a sense of humor, so I'll keep you. It's like, okay, that didn't come back, but okay, well, I guess the plot happens, so that's good. But yeah, Zaroff, I mean, it's just a little too much, because, you know, even something like Mavic Chen in the Daleks' Master Plan, it's like, no, he starts off pretty sane, you know. It's like, yeah, he has his own nefarious plots and stuff like that. He wants to be like the right hand to the Daleks, and then eventually, you know, he wants to surpass the Daleks and stuff. But it is and especially because it's 12 episodes, it is a slow progression for him. Yeah. But Zaroff just starts off like, I'm just insane. Yeah. And everyone is too blind by religion to see that I'm insane. Even my own, like, helpers and other scientists there, that somehow they didn't see, like, it's because he knew what he was doing exactly. Like, okay, if I drill down, the planet will explode and yay, we'll all go flying. And the Doctor immediately figured that. It's like, wait, this is what he's doing, that you can't do this. The other scientists there apparently were not smart enough to realize what they were actually doing.
Perhaps they weren't scientists, they were just flunkies, you know. We were only following orders.
Yeah, they were the ones that tried to jet at the first sign of trouble during the war, I guess.
And by the way, I mean, talk about B-movie stuff. You are probably aware of this. In the 1970s, this guy from Great Britain, Richard O'Brien, spoofed a lot of this stuff in the Rocky Horror Show, the stage version, and later the movie version, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I mean, seriously, there were lines from this episode that I swear are in the Rocky Horror Show. Yeah. You know, come up to the lab and see what's on the slab. I made you and I can break you. Those are lines that Dr. Frankenfurter says. So it makes you wonder if Richard O'Brien was in fact a Doctor Who fan, and this might have helped motivate him to write the mad scientist versus the transvestites musical. So, I don't know. I would like, if I may, to tell you a strange story.
Let's see. We had the fish people. I feel like the fish people were just there to be like, look at our budget. Like, they didn't really serve a purpose. Like, they had the food strike, which was, you know, kind of funny, but it's like, and here it's like, here they are underwater for 5 minutes so that we can show off our wire work that we can do now. Like, all right,
but
guys.
Now that, I think, might be a director's thing, which I definitely think was a good idea. Keep them at a distance. You know, there was only a couple of close-ups of their faces where you could see, you know, they were wearing the goggles and they had the...
They never talked.
Yeah, they just did the, you know, bubbling sort of thing.
Right.
So, if you're going to use them, that's the best way to do it. In television in the 60s, keep them in the distance so you're going, wow, that's actually kind of cool. I wish I could see them more. But the closer you get to them, the sillier they look.
It kind of feels like if this was a normal episode of Doctor Who, they would be the focus, sort of, you know, the Doctor has to help them rise up against the Atlanteans or something. Yeah. So, yeah, that's, I don't know. But, I mean, yeah, they were kind of interesting. They always seem to have their mouths open, too, kind of like the Cybermen did. So it's like, you know, maybe it is a good thing that they didn't end up talking. Yeah. So,
well, again, that noise that went along with it, I'm assuming that, again, is supposed to be the way the fish people were talking.
Yeah.
Is that, what is it? Ululating sort of thing that they were doing.
Yeah. Let's see. Lifting Atlantis from a certain point of view. You're lifting it way past the atmosphere, but again, it's just such an odd, like, I have the power to destroy the world. It's like, well, good for you. Why would you do that, though? It's just it doesn't make sense, because it's like, again, you know, you kind of go back to, you know, anyone who worked on the nukes, and it's like, yes, they know, like, this has such great power, and especially, you know, once you get to the Cold War, it's like, you know, the mutually assured destruction and stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, we have that, and if one of these goes off, they're all going to go off, and we are all going to die. But nobody was like, yes, now let's do that for science.
The whole point of mutual assured destruction was, you're basically saying, we know we have the power to destroy the Earth, and we know that you have the power to destroy the Earth, so that will prevent either one of us from doing it. But this guy says, no, I'm going to blow up the world. And we're going, yeah, take a pill. Do something. Because, So, again, if we're thinking, was the point of this whole thing to show that science was getting out of control? I mean, late 60s, this is really more of a 1950s kind of plot. But it just, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's just, there is no point in destroying the world.
Yeah.
You don't build a doomsday machine to destroy the world. You build a doomsday machine to prevent the destruction of the world.
Yeah.
So it's just, the whole point of this 4-episode arc is just like, no, it makes no sense.
Yeah. Let's see. I wrote down Arma. She was there. Like, again, it's like I feel like we missed an introduction to her character. She was just immediately like, "Here, I will help," and then that was just that. So,
but again, that was a part of the first recon, and we didn't see. There may have been something because she does say later, the second time we see her, where she says, "No, I hate Dr. Zaroff, and I do hate all this." But that should have been in the very first introduction of her.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the first time we do see her is when the Doctor has the note to get to Zaroff. So that could have been it, and then after that, it's like, oh yes, you helped me with the note. Okay, now I need your help with something else. It could have been that. And maybe we just sort of it sort of glanced over in the recon. I wrote down hats and naps because this doctor loves hats, and at the beginning it's like, okay, he just laid down while they were climbing, laid down, closed his eyes. Like, does he just like to nap? Is it because the first Doctor had so many involuntary naps that now all of his, like, no, I'm just gonna sit down and take a nap just because I feel like it. I don't have to do it anymore, but I will. I don't know. It's just a little thing I wrote down.
Again, that hat. It's not a stovepipe. It's not a chimney sweep hat. I'm trying to figure out where that hat comes from.
Yeah.
But seriously, other than out of fiction, like the Mad Hatter or something. But even the Mad Hatter had a top hat because the top hats were made with the mercury and everything, which drove the Hatter mad. But again, that hat just makes no sense whatsoever.
It looks kind of like a fedora, but they just kept extending it upwards. Like Fairly Odd Parents' Doug Dimmadome, it's supposed to like go across the screen, basically. Like, it's just ridiculous. So, let's see. We had the food strike, which, okay, maybe I'm not up to date on refrigerator history, but like, and all that time, it's like, oh, we have no way of preserving the food, so it goes, the fish go bad after a few hours. Like, really? Science, man? You figured out a way to blow up the Earth and you can't make a refrigerator? Like, that seems a little odd.
Yes, and again, if this is in fact shortly after 1968, we have had refrigeration since the 1920s. Willis Carrier invents the air conditioner, so that ultimately brings people around to the idea of refrigerating food inside of a box. Before that, of course, it was just literally the ice box. You put a chunk of ice in it, and it kept everything cold until the ice melted. But yeah, this would have been a good 40 or 50 years after the idea of refrigeration. So if this guy can set up a system to literally drain the ocean and blow up the world, and he can't make a refrigerator, that's just absurd. That's an absurd notion.
Yeah, it's just so odd. Because even like okay, if he's too busy working on destroying the Earth, you have a lot of scientists be like, all right, Bill, go build a refrigerator, man, and then when you're done, come back. But go do that so we can hold this stuff.
And instead of inventing a refrigerator, they invent a serum to turn people into fish so that they can harvest the plankton.
Yeah, I guess. Because he said, he taught Damon, pretty much everything he knew. So that means he had to invent that. So they didn't have those fish people before... I guess they didn't have fish people before Zaroff came to Atlantis, which makes you question...
What did they eat?
Well, how were they getting their food before then? Were they fishing? How... If you can fish, why make fish people? And if you can make fish people, you could eat the fish people at that point.
Well, let's not carp on that.
okay. And I know we're kind of nitpicking here, and we're nitpicking. This is something from this. I think we're still in 1966 at this point, but still, I feel like an average kid watching this back then might think they don't have a refrigerator. That might be the one thing where it's like this would be the one thing a kid would think about is they don't have a refrigerator. It's like, I don't know.
But again, watching it week to week, that might not have stuck with somebody the way it does with us.
Maybe, yeah. Let's see. I wrote down Mulan 2 because it's basically what they did when it's like, oh, this is the word of your god, and everyone bow and don't look, and then the doctor and everyone gets away. So that's it. That's essentially how Mulan 2 ends. So
I don't think I've seen Mulan 2, only the original.
We have. It's so god awful you probably blocked it out. So
which reminds me, we haven't seen the live action one either. Has it been released? Do you know?
Yes. Disney Plus finally stopped doing their like $30 charge or whatever for it. So yeah, we could watch it. I hear it not like
it exists.
Yeah, it's kind of like all the Disney remakes. It's like it's not great. It's not the original. So anyway, let's see. We had the flood and drowning Zaroff, which, see, the interesting thing is when we were watching episode 3, it kind of kept ramping up, and I was like, okay, this feels like we're getting into like the finale here. Like, all right, here we go. What are we doing? And so the next episode, it's like, okay, well, yeah, we have certain things that we have to do, but we also need to fill a few minutes of, like them just climbing and, escaping and stuff like that. It's like, okay, you need to fill a couple minutes with that, which is fine. And maybe it's, it also feels that way because this is in recon and it's hard to do. Like, they walk through this place. They walk through another place. They climbed up a wall. It's like, that's hard to do in recon, so we can kind of give them a pass. But
and again, I would have loved to have seen what they did with the flooding. Because obviously they had that one shot of Zaroff, going under the water. But I would have loved to have seen how they had the water coming out of the idol's eyes and the mouth and things like that, and what they actually, how much water they actually were using.
Yeah.
And whether or not, if that was a model or if they were actually, submerging some of their actual set in a tub, a gigantic tub of some kind.
Yeah. The Atlanteans could leave at any point, right? And
theoretically, if the Doctor and Ben and Polly and Jamie can climb out, they could too.
Yeah. And I think they did climb out, and it's like, okay, you climbed out, all of Atlantis is flooded. It's like,
wait. Well, no. They only flooded the lower portions. They flooded the temple and the laboratory.
And the lab.
And then the king said, we shall now live without the two of them because look how much trouble both of them have got us into.
Okay.
So they didn't flood all of it, just the lower levels.
Just enough. Okay. So they can build a new Atlantis with the upper decks, I guess. But if you can get to the surface, you should probably just go to the surface. You're probably missing out on a lot of vitamin D and stuff like that. So, yeah. There are a number of times where I feel like Ben could have just decked Zaroff and his problems would be over. Like, especially, it's like, yes, I have put up this, barrier between us. It's like, yeah, but you're right in front of that barrier. Yeah, it's just a quick jab, but, oh well, that's all right. I mean, that's sort of more of a criticism of Doctor Who in general than this episode. It's like, now if Steven were here, Steven might have tried something.
Yeah.
But, and if Barbara was here, she probably would have tried something too. So, I guess the last thing I really wrote down was the Doctor tried to take the TARDIS somewhere specific, and this apparently has pissed off the TARDIS. So they were going to go to Mars, but I don't think that's where they're going to end up. So, but yeah, and I think next episode is let me see. Okay. Yeah. Okay, next episode, part 1 and part 3 are animated, part 2 and part 4 are all good. So we at least will not have recons. Actually, I don't think... Okay, we don't have recons for a little while, actually. So,
But the next one is called the Moon Base.
The Moon Base.
So he tries to go to Mars and ends up on the moon.
He was very close. That's the TARDIS being spiteful.
It's not exactly close.
It's
okay. It's a 2 or 3 day trip to the moon at this point.
Yeah.
In the late 60s, early 70s. It's like an 18 to 24 month journey to Mars at this point. So yeah, that's not what I would call close.
Maybe it's a moon of Mars.
Uh-huh.
So it's pretty close to where he wanted to go, but the TARDIS is being spiteful. So,
all right. If I recall correctly, Mars has 2 moons.
Yes.
Is that right? Deimos and Phobos.
Something like that.
All right.
Trying to think. Is this the one where I need to? No. Okay. Well, here I can check my schedule real quick. Okay, no, that's not the next episode. After we watch the next episode, we will actually take a 1-week break for Christmas. Okay. So, I'm just trying to remember because I'm taking a week off for Christmas, but it's not a consecutive week. It's like I have to break everything up, so I have to remember which episodes I'm like, oh yeah, there won't be a thing next week. But we will be back next week for the next episode.
When does this one air? This one will air. This one will air after Christmas, right?
Technically, yes. So okay, so this is the Underwater Menace. The Underwater Menace, which will go up on the 21st on Patreon, 28th on YouTube.
All right, so hope everyone had a Merry Christmas.
Yes. This is such a strange time warp we have. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. We're still here on the 12th, but yeah. And a Happy New Year, which is coming up for you guys. And let's hope 2021 is any better than the one we just had. So I guess that's it.
That's about it.
Yeah, with all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of our Doctor Who classic reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media, links below in the description. See you guys later.